Porsche is an iconic car brand that has been around for more than 70 years with an illustrious motorsport life, competing in multiple categories, which has brought them fame. One of the famous models is the 911, which has been a staple in the car world since 1964 to modern day. Let's talk about the change of the Porsche 911 from the beginning. The Porsche 911 was designed by Ferdinand Alexander Porsche, as it was a family tradition for the new generation of the Porsche family to be involved in the creation of the new generation of car. The 911 is meant to be the successor of the 365, which very Porsche wanted the successor of the 365 to provide space and comfort in the cabin, but also said comfort is not what makes driving fun, but more the opposite. Ferdinand drew up the early drafts of the 911 were all accepted by Ferry Porsche. The final design of the Porsche 911 has a sleek curved body with a rear-wheel drive, a rear-mounted air-cooled 2-litre boxer engine that produced 130 horsepower, which for the time was impressive. The 1964 911 goes 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 9.1 seconds and a top speed of 210 kilometers an hour. The main body of the car was made of pressed steel panels, while specific parts of the engine case was made from aluminium. The engine made the car unbalanced when it drove, and the wheels were too small, so the wheels would spin when you drive the car. This is because the car was unbalanced on the front of the car, had little to no weight in the front, was empty, as it was used as the boot. Most people didn't use it for storage, as there wasn't much room to fit luggage in the front, and this meant the front can't balance at the rear, as the tyre width is 165mm, which is considered small width for a tyre. When the car was released, it was worth 21,000 German Deutschmarks, which is £91,000. In 1973, Porsche released their next 911 in the line, named the 911 G Series. This was made from 1973 to 1984, which was the introduction of the turbocharged engine in the 911, and the width of the body was 5mm smaller than the original 911, as they wanted the 911 to have more aerodynamic for higher speeds. The G Series brought the introduction of the impact bumper to the line because of the low speed protection laws in the US, which was successfully integrated into the design for 15 years. The G Series has a 2.7-litre flat-six air-cooled boxer engine, which produced 150 to 175 horsepower and a top speed of 225 kilometers an hour. The body was made from galvanized steel for the main portion of the body to improve corrosion resistance. This was also made the 911 more sustainable and better for the environment. Porsche also used a type of plastic called urethane. Porsche also increased the tyre width to 165mm to 185mm in the front and 125mm in the rear. And this makes the car easier to drive and less prone to spin. As overall, the G Series was designed to be more refined and faster, with both speed and usability in mind. In 1989, Porsche introduced the new 911 model called the 964, which was in production from 1989 to 1994. This model brought a new wave of technology and innovation to the 911 line, as this car was the first 911 with four-wheel drive, which would make the handling much easier. This was added to the 911 because of the 911 Carrera 4x4 Dakar rally car. This model was also the first to introduce ABS to the model, which is now common in most modern cars. They also added airbags for the first time to ensure drivers and passenger safety, as the Porsche board wanted safety to come as a Porsche standard. The 964 Turbo has an air-cooled 3.3-litre turbocharged flat-six engine that produced 320 horsepower, which goes 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5 seconds, with a top speed of 282 kilometers an hour. This was also the introduction of the coil spring suspension, replacing the torsion bar suspension. This was the first model to have power steering, which made it easy to control the car at top speeds. The main body of the 964 was made from galvanized steel to resist rust, just like the previous model, the G Series. The front bonnet was made from aluminium to reduce weight for performance. The bumpers are made of polyurethane plastic, which have been integrated with the bodywork. The rearing was made of plastic composite. In 1994, the 993 was introduced as the next car in the line of the Porsche 911 line. This car was in production from 1994 to 1998 and was the last 911 with an air-cooled engine. This car also had the nickname the Widowmaker, as this car was tail-happy due to the engine being in the rear. The 993 had a 3.6-litre air-cooled flat six with 272 horsepower, which went 0 to 100 kilometers within 5 seconds, and had a top speed of 275 kilometers an hour. The rear suspension was a multi-link rear suspension for better ride and handling. The brakes were ventilated disc brakes with ABS. The 993 also had power steering like the predecessor. The materials used in the 993 was the exact same as the 946. In 1996 to the 911 line, the 996 was in production from 1998 to 2004. The 996 was the first fully redesigned 911, which was not well received when it was first released, as the fans of the 911 line was upset that the 996 apparently lost what made 911 a 911, like the headlights, which they changed from the model of non-elliptical lights, which the Porsche 911 was known for. This was the first model to have a water-cooled engine. The 996 had 3.6-litre water-cooled flat six engine that produced 269 horsepower that went 0 to 100 kilometers in 4.8 seconds and a top speed of 290 kilometers an hour. The 996 had improved weight distribution to help with handling. The 996 also introduced electronic stability control. The 996 body was made from the same as the two previous models. The 997 was introduced in 2004 and ended production of the 997 in 2012. The 997 had a 3.6-litre water-cooled flat six engine that produced 325 horsepower that does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.8 seconds with a top speed of 286 kilometers an hour. There wasn't many changes for this car from the previous model. In 2011, Porsche introduced the 991. This 991 was in production from 2011 to 2018 and is the second most recent 911 released, which also brought a whole lot of changes, with a longer wheelbase for better stability and interior space, wider front and rear tracks to improve handling on the roads, and an entirely new chassis. This was also the first 911 to have an aluminium steel composite construct, which reduced the weight of the car by 45 kg. This was also the first 911 with a power steering instead of hydraulic power steering like the 997. The 991 had a flat six like the other previous models, and the engine produced 350 horsepower and went 100 kilometers in 4.6 seconds and had a top speed of 288 kilometers an hour. From 2018 and onwards, the 992 is the current model of the 911 on the market. This model has a 3-litre twin-turbo flat-six engine, which produced 379 horsepower and will go 0 to 100 in 4 seconds, and the top speed of 293 kilometers an hour. This model has all-wheel drive as standard in all cars. The key updates on this model are the fact this model is wider than all previous models and is the first model to have fully digital clutch and have an active safety system which includes lane assist and adaptive cruise control. Overall, the Porsche has made the 911 fit into the company's sustainability goals, which includes responsible consumption and production. Recent measures to support this have been included changing the material of the body of the 911 to be better for the environment and making the elements recyclable when the car becomes scrapped for parts.